Peace and love, everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And I want to welcome and thank you all for being here with me this evening on this Monday, Moon Day, April 21st in 2025. And it is a great, glorious day. I hope everyone is surrounded by love and all is well in your world. So, peace again and love, family. And tonight's topic is staying grounded against the storms of life. And I felt drawn to choose this topic and inspired to use this topic tonight because there is a lot um, of storms brewing, if you will, and there's a lot that people are being confronted with and being having to deal with a lot of challenges, a lot of movement, a lot of new critical changes taking place on the planet and with people in their lives. And so, with that said, sometimes that can create tension or anxiety, or it can create a lot of just issues when it comes to adjusting and coping with change. And change is inevitable, but it's not always easy and not always um, the kind of change that we expect and are prepared for. That's the thing about it. Change happens and sometimes it comes without warning, and you have to be quick and swift and adaptable when it comes to um addressing and coping with those changes. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. um how to stay grounded against the storms of life. And I want to talk about why I call them storms of life. Storms, because to me, that's what they are. The challenges that we face, the issues and the problems that we face, we can call them storms because storms are forces of nature. You can't escape them, you can't outrun them, and they come, they stay a while, and they go. However, storms can leave behind destruction sometimes, or sometimes when there's a storm, it brings life giving rain. It restores moisture to the air, seems to bring life after a drought, so it depends. It depends. But know of a surety that challenges will come to you in life and then leave. As one of my sisters always reminds me, that um, challenges are or issues that come up are temporary. They're temporary. Sometimes when you're in the midst of them or in the midst of the storms of life, it may not feel like it's temporary, but they are, and know that they're not going to last forever. And the effects of it, however, may cause a dramatic change or a pivotal change in your life. And when that happens, you have to um, know how to adjust, know how to cope with it. Um, at this stage in my journey in life, I look at myself as, someone that's riding on a boat and over the in the ocean or a river or whatever, and the challenges that come my way, I'm learning to just, instead of trying to paddle the boat away from it, just allow the boat to float or be buoyant and float along through the challenges, and that allow it to do what it's going to do and take you where it's going to take you, and just be, brace yourself and know that you are still in control of that boat. You know, no matter how big that wave looks that's coming your way, remember that you are in control. There may be some times where you feel like you're not in control of your boat and you're not the captain of your own ship, but you are, even if when it feels like you're not, because there are choices that we get to make that determine the outcome. And then in moments when you feel that you don't have any choices, there's still other decisions that you are able to make. And you want to make decisions from a place of from a higher from decisions from your higher self. And you also want to make decisions that are um for the highest good of all those are involved in it, and not so much just from your perspective or what's best for you. You want to make those decisions that have a positive outcome and a positive impact on everyone that's involved. So let's talk about ways to stay grounded against the storms that we face in life, because trust me, they're here, they're coming, they soon come. They're just what they are. All right. So, how do you build resistance or survive them? What are the skills and the strategies and the tools that you have to help you build up help fortify you in the event of going through some challenges or storms in life. All right. And everyone, number one, let's talk about everyone faces them. Everybody faces challenges. Um, if you look at your life, you look at everybody around you, everyone has faced some kind of challenge. Even spiritual leaders and famous figures, like if you think about Jesus the Christ, if you think about any Siddhartha the Buddha, if you think about, some of the epic heroes, even stories like Asar and Arset and Heru, all beings had to face some kind of challenge. And these challenges are here for a reason. They do serve a purpose in our lives. They're here to teach us a lesson, or to offer guidance, or to show us new abilities or strengths that we didn't know we had. If we didn't have the experiences, we would never know. Or they're here to awaken our spirit, to heal some part of us, or show us who we are. They're here to deepen our connection to spirit and our higher selves. So if you look at the example of the story of the hero's journey, you may have heard me mention that in many other um, lives that I've done or videos. And the hero's journey is a recurring theme throughout history. It's a recurring theme in a lot of movies, a lot of stories, books, and whatnot. And the hero's journey is a story of an individual who lives an ordinary life, and one day something happens to them, and when that happens, it makes them they have to give up all that they know and all that it forces them out of their comfort zone. They have to give up all they know, and they have to go on a journey, whether it's physically moving or a spiritual journey, and a journey of awakening. And in this awakening journey, they're going through many, many different forms of self-discovery. They're going through trials and lessons. And in this experience, they're learning who they are. And they're not the person that they were when they started the journey. And as they go throughout the journey and they discover who they are, what they are, to discover what their purpose and their mission is in life. And it takes them on this path that they never knew existed. And it awakens within them some type of ability, some type of power, some type of gift or talent, if you will, that they didn't know that they had. And so one of the best examples I can give on what I mean by the hero's journey, I'm trying to think of a story that most people are familiar with, is if you look at the the example of Star Wars, which is one of the best examples I could think of right at the top of my head. And the story of Luke Skywalker, how he lived an ordinary existence. You know, he lived with his family and his droids on the planet, you know, Tatooine, very, you know, just ordinary existence, just a regular guy. And then one day tragedy struck. And then when the tragedy struck, he set off on a journey and was going around looking for someone who ended up being a teacher, a spiritual teacher, a master teacher. And that master teacher taught him a lot about um, the force, which was something he knew very little of. And in teaching him, he learned and discovered a lot within himself and that he had the ability to use the force. He also discovered that there was much more to his life than he previously thought. He also discovered who he really was because his identity had been obscured and kept a secret from him to some degree. And he just went on this path of self discovery and he became a Jedi warrior or Jedi Knight, you know. And then he, you know, had first one teacher was Obi-Wan Kenobi, the next teacher was Yoda. And then he needed guidance and reassurance to a certain point. But as he grew in his abilities and his and once he became strengthened by the force, he no longer needed their guidance. And it's kind of like a graduation, if you will, you know, or just an initiation, going from one level to the next, going from one degree to the next. And then he became this, you know, this great Jedi warrior. And or another film that many of us have probably seen is the movie Avatar with um I don't remember the actor's name. Zoe Saldana was in that movie. They are on the planet Pandora, and there's a similar story of the hero's journey where you have the young man Jake Sully, who seems to be just a regular military guy, and he takes an assignment and not knowing the outcome, he just took the assignment, and the assignment took him down a path that he never knew existed. He became a different person. So it awakened something in him. He discovered, you know, things and strengths that he had that he wasn't quite aware of. And as time went by, he became this heroic figure, and it's forever changed his destiny. And so, though, that's another example of what I mean by the hero's journey. And if you look at yourself and look at your own life, you will probably see that you are probably going through your own version of the hero's journey because you are the hero of your life. So these challenges that we face are here for some purpose, and it's up to you to discover what that purpose is. Is it here to teach me a lesson? Is it here to offer guidance? Is this issue showing up to reveal new abilities or new strengths that you wouldn't develop without this experience? Is it awakening our spirit to heal some part of us? Or is it showing us who we really and truly are, you know, what our destiny is, what our life path is, what our objective, our incarnation objective is? Is this challenge showing up to deepen our connection to spirit or our higher selves? Because as we connect to spirit, we are connecting through and with our higher selves. So when I say these challenges come to us to teach us a lesson, there's lessons to be learned in our lives, and these lessons help guide us or help us to learn and develop our ourselves, our all of our abilities. Sometimes lessons come or challenges come to offer guidance or to show us new abilities or strengths. If an example of the movies I just mentioned, something tragic happened to each of those characters. And if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have put them on a path of self discovery. And so that's what I mean by it's sometimes the challenges are here to show us new abilities or new strengths. Um, you hear stories all the time about people starting foundations or nonprofits or whatever to help um, people in need, but they too, at some point in their lives, were in that same position of needing the help or needing the support. You may hear a story about someone that was homeless. They lost their job, they lost everything, and when they got in a better position, they opened a foundation that helped the homeless. If they had not been through that experience, they wouldn't have known what it felt like or just how serious the issue was. So that helped shape their destiny and help them to become a helper to others in similar situations. So that's another example of how the challenges come to us. Now, some people look at challenges as a blessing. They say every experience is a blessing. You could look at that, however, it's some lesson definitely in the experience. And I mentioned earlier, everyone faces them. Every single person, um, even some great spiritual teachers and people who were considered, highly evolved, um, or, holy people or saint like people, whatever, they face challenges too. But how they coped with them may be different than the rest of us, but they too faced challenges. They faced hardships in their lives. Um, the storms of life, didn't pass them by. They still went through them as well. Remember, when you're going through any difficult situation, and some of these challenges that we face in life really, really take a toll on us, you know, whether it, regardless of what it is, whether it's grief or something that is causing a big upset or upheaval in your life. Remember, when you're in the midst of it, there is a solution to every problem. That is something that I've learned over the years, facing my own challenges, is finding a solution to every problem. Sometimes the problem feels so overwhelming, so big, that you can't see the solution at the moment, but take time to practice some mindfulness, breathe, stay calm, master the art of staying calm, use your tools and go within to find the answers. And you will find them, in the midst of the hardship, when things seem at its darkest hour and things seem extra difficult. That is a moment to turn to whatever your tools are, whether it's some mindfulness practices, um, some spiritual practices, or go within and find the answers on your own. Sometimes spending some time alone so you can just hear your thoughts will help you. Um, Also, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. That can be a useful tool. Many people do not have the asking for help is really hard. Asking for help for a lot of people is hard. One of the reasons it's hard is because a lot of times they've been rejected when they sought help, or people have, gaslit them or made them feel some type of way when they seek help. But seeking help is a tool. Um, it's not easy because of the world we live in. That, like I said, there are people that will make you feel bad when you seek help. And some people don't have anyone to turn to for help because the people around them are the problem, or the people around them don't have coping skills themselves. They don't have any way to assist you through what you're going through, because they don't have the skills, or they just don't know. They don't have the skills. They don't know. And what you don't know, you don't know. And so sometimes people, we don't have anyone around us to support us the way we need to be supported through the storms of life and through challenges and hardships. They may offer help, but it's not the kind of help that you need. And that may be all that they are capable of, or that's all they have the capacity of. And then some people, let's face it, some people don't have any support system at all. You have some people who, despite appearances, they are alone. They don't have a family support system, they don't have a friend support system, um they don't have significant others in their lives, or whatever the case may be. Many people are, vulnerable and needy and just, alone. So be mindful of that when going through hardships or going through challenges. When you observe other people going through it, you know, offer some loving support and guidance. Recognize that that person may not have the tools that they need to get through difficult times, and it's more than an uphill battle for them. It's just really some hardship they're facing. And say encouraging things, be compassionate instead of judging or making assumptions or presumptions that they have support. Just because people live in a house with other people doesn't mean that they're close, and it certainly doesn't mean that they are assisting them through what any kind of challenges that they're facing, or offering any support or guidance. Just don't assume that, because we don't, you never know. Um, but remember that when issues come up, like that analogy I gave earlier, like you're on a boat in the ocean and a big wave is coming your way. The wave is the challenge. You are in the boat. Use your tools, whatever you use to help you get through difficulty and challenging times. Start tapping into that. Start tapping into that. Um, Another way you can help yourself through difficult, challenging times is seek divine guidance. Whether you're a religious person or not, seek some form of divine guidance. How would spiritual matters cope with problems? Look at some of the examples of some figures from different spiritual and religious systems, whether it's the example of Heru, Asar or Set, biblical, Quranic, or other characters, whatever these persons are in your faith or your spiritual tradition. Look at how they coped with challenges. What advice did they give when coping with those things? Because you don't always have to go through things yourself to be able to offer guidance. Look at what their example, and what did they do, what did they say, what were some of the things that they advised humanity on, and seek that advice. um, Also, your spiritual practices are examples of divine guidance, because you're guiding yourself through your spiritual practices, whether it's daily meditation or prayers, decrees, mantras, zikr, whatever it is that you do, journaling, whatever. Those are the things that you turn to in times of need. So always, make sure that you are mindful and remember those things when you need them the most. Don't be forgetful. And back to we have a little one in the house. And excuse me, folks. He just likes to play. But anyway, all of those things will help you cope with your problems. Use those spiritual practices and that advice to help you find answers, give you the stamina. Open your sacred heart and your divine mind to help make your task easier. You are going to go through some things, you are going to face some challenges. Just remember that you are, a sacred being, and you have a brilliant, divinely inspired mind and heart, and ask for guidance from um, whatever divine presence that you serve and pray to. Ask for the guidance to help make the task ahead or the journey easier for you. Ask for guidance, ask for support. Seek and ye shall be given, as they say. So do that. Always remember that you're not alone, that there is guidance and support. And it can be from scriptures, like I said, mantras, stories, whatever, you seek those out. Um, Another thing about challenges are helping you to gain self mastery. And once you overcome certain challenges, you realize and you kind of look back on it, you're like, well, it wasn't so bad as I thought it was. And once you get through the challenges and face them, it's like you've mastered it, you've graduated, you've gone on to the next level. So they help you develop that self mastery. And one of the things that gets in the way of us, how we face challenges, are our vices or our weaknesses. The things that cause our foot to slip, the things that cause us to stray away from the divine guidance, that gets us into trouble and can cause problems for us and weigh us down. Um, One of the things that I often say in my prayers is, grant me protection against my faults, because your faults and the weaknesses and our shortcomings, if we're not working on them, those are things that can cause and wreak havoc in our lives and just make us weaker, and cause us to it can cause those things in and of themselves cause challenges, and those challenges can cause our lives to be a lot more difficult than they need to be. And so self mastery, mastering self, mastering, that lower self, mastering um the aspects of you that are in need of healing, all of that helps us to overcome challenges. Another thing you can do when it comes to dealing with the storms of life is paying attention to the signs around you. Pay attention to the signs. When Don't wait till things get acute before you do something about them. When it comes to facing challenges and issues, you want to be prepared. They say if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So back to the analogy of being in the boat and in the ocean, when you see that big wave coming, get prepared before the wave comes. Don't wait until the wave comes and knocks you out of your boat and leaves you powerless. When you see it building momentum or potential situation turning into something bigger, that's when you should take action. Don't wait until things get just too out of hand. Ignore it, think it's going to go away. You know, don't go along with the group think. I did a lecture about that last week, so tune into last week's video. Don't go along with the group think, and just do what everybody else says, everybody else does. If you know that it's not for your best at all. Be aware of what is happening and how to arm yourself and be prepared for any battle, spiritual battle, mental battle, physical battle, all of those challenges and issues. Pay attention before it gets out of control. So if you see the wave in the distance, now is the time for you to turn your boat around, or position yourself. If you can't turn the boat around, position yourself so that if the wave comes crashing your way, it won't knock you out of your boat, and you'll be ready. You ready for it. So that's what I mean when I say pay attention to the signs. Don't go along and go with the flow and do what everybody else is doing. Be prepared. Know what's happening. Know how to prepare yourself. Know how to fortify yourself and stand up and be ready to face and accept challenges that come your way. Remember also, another thing is surround yourself with positive, uplifting people and opportunities to help you through the storms of life. So when you're going through um, any challenges you face, make sure you're surrounded by a support system. If you don't have one, you need to develop one. The support system can be just you and your therapist. Um, the support system can be you and your emotional support pet or friend. Your journal can be your support system if you don't have the others. Um, what you do to self soothe and redirect your thinking. Some people paint when they have a lot on their mind, or when they are feeling distressed. Some people compose music. Some people become very creative. They make things. They exercise, whatever it is, spending time in nature, whatever it is that makes you feel better, helps you to cope with challenges and stress, helps you to think more clearly so that you're not reacting. That is what you should be surrounding yourself with. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting people and opportunities to help you and to help you navigate your way through difficult times. If you are surrounded by people who don't support you, who don't listen to you when you need someone to listen to, friendship or any kind of relationship should be mutual. It shouldn't be you give, 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 and the other person takes, takes, takes because they're so needy or whatever. It should not be a situation where you're always jumping over puddles, jumping over rivers and mountains to help someone else, but they won't even jump over a puddle to come and assist you or to help you. And then we all know people like that. And then some of those same people, you give and give and give so much and support them. And then the one time you have to take a break for yourself, or one time you're not available to help them and you say no, they turn on you like they got, like a rabid dog. Those kind of people you need to eliminate from your life because they are users, probably narcissists too, and they just, are just siphoning and using your energy and your time and your expertise, your advice, your support, your love, or whatever, and it's not being reciprocated because friendship should be mutual. There's times where you'll be the person to support your friend and shoulder for them to lean on. Then there's going to be times where you're going to need someone's shoulder to lean on. And so, if they're never there for you when you need it, that's something you need to reevaluate, and maybe this relationship, whatever it is, may need to be examined or dealt with in a different way. So remember to surround yourself with positive people, people who nurture you, people who support and love you, people um, who will be truthful with you and honest, not enablers and not people that take advantage either. So it's one extreme to the other. We don't want either of them in our lives. Um, the positivity is what will also help you overcoming the storms in life. So with that said, I wonder, let me see, are there any questions tonight in the chat? No, there aren't. All right, so thank you everyone for watching and listening. I hope that was helpful. I hope that this advice is useful for whoever is out there listening and cares to use it. Please do. Please share this video with others because we are going through some challenging times for many of us. It's a great time to be alive on the planet Earth as we're going through this great paradigm shift. However, for some people, it doesn't feel like the best of times. And that's fine too, because we're all in different stages. Some of us we're just in different stages in our lives. And so, with that, remember, family, we have inherited a lot of negative thinking and belief systems from the past. So go easy on yourself. You are clearing thousands of years of outdated conditioning as we work together to create the new earth. With that said, I hope bless each and every one of you has love, peace, prosperity, good health, and freedom to you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your week. Peace and love.